Thank you for the introduction. As said, my name is Marc Postel and I'm the founder of a company called Fungalogic. And I think on the posters it said, we grow buildings. And in fact it should say something like, we grow 100% natural insulation material for thermal and acoustic insulation out of agricultural waste streams. And then you think, I want to hear more about that in a little while. Because first, I want to say I'm honored to be here today, because many times I've sat on the other side. Actually, yesterday I found this photo of me in 2015, I guess, during Indecem, asking a question. And it is there where you sit today, where you build your own vision on the future, where you become a future maker. And it is there where I found my why, as Simon Sinek calls it. Why am I doing what I do? And that's where I'm going to start. And a little further on, we're going to talk about how, and we're going to talk about what. But talk about why, we need to talk about context. Because by now you've learned to deal with context in architecture, right? You've understand that there's a context in an urban situation, but in my opinion there's also something like a societal context. A zeitgeist, so the context of time, like what society is going through now. And when I was sitting there, I was thinking something very similar like this. Or maybe this, right? But I show these pictures of this protesting students because I think they are the first time there is a collective sense of urgency among a generation that really understand that it's now that the action has to be taken, and that valuable time for action is, well, being lost over discussion. And that was how I felt a couple of years back. Because if we're going to look into the context of the building industry, we see that we as creators, we as people responsible for the built environment, have quite the environmental impact. 1/3 of all energy use is through buildings. 1/3 of all waste produced is construction and demolition waste. So we really need to think about how we're going to shape that future and how we're going to do things differently. And yes, we can talk about the nice things to talk about when talking about climate change. Extreme weather events, biodiversity loss, so making more green buildings. But actually I think we need to talk about cities. Because if you look to the global context and rising populations and the expansion of cities, we need to build 75% of cities we've built today again. Maybe not in the Netherlands, but globally, yes. And that while the industry is so extremely polluting and is so extremely wasteful. So there's a need for a radical different approach, in my opinion. And that's why I stand here today sharing this story. That's our motivation. That's why I get up in the morning and actively want to change the world. So how do I envision that? We believe nature holds the key to a sustainable building industry. And not because nature is in everything, but because nature has had billions of years of evolution, right? That's the same idea which is used in biomimetic design. And I think it's also applicable to a circular economy. Because when talking about the circular economy, you cannot talk about nature. Nature doesn't know the concept of waste. Nature has no waste. So if you talk about, in my opinion, a circular economy, you have to focus on a bio-based economy, a nature-based circular economy. And yes, design for disassembly and the technical cycle are very interesting for specific applications. Windows, ventilation systems, high-tech stuff. But let's be honest, buildings are not that high-tech. It's not rocket science. Buildings stand still for 40 years, right? So why don't we use materials that are not that high tech, that do what they need to do and not so much more, and we can actually reuse, recycle very easily after their use case. But if you look at natural materials, because that's where, in my opinion, you're going to end, you see that a lot of chemicals are needed to, especially in insulation material, which is my business, especially in insulation material, a lot of glue and fire retardant chemicals are needed to create these materials. And yes, a natural good material is amazing, but if you add a chemical to that, it's still a bad material. So we went looking for a different way to do that. And what we do is we use fungi. And fungi have amazing properties. They turn natural waste into an insulation material, and not only that, they have the capability to improve its insulation value by 50% when compared to straw, for instance. And they act as a natural fire retardant, which in forests is used as well, acts as a kind of mechanism against forest fires, but we use it for a building material. Also, it binds together the particles, so we don't need any glue. So 100% natural waste material. And we're not the only ones doing that, right? I mean, some of you probably know more people are working with fungal materials. Over the last decade, you've seen a development in what's capable. But if I look at these examples, I think, where are the real projects? Where are the impactful projects? These are all exhibitions, right? These are showcases of what can be done. But we need to act. We need to make real buildings for real people with real impact. So, what the problems of these last examples are is that they're not economically viable, right? There's no business. They're approximately 30 times too expensive to do as they propose. So we thought, what can we do differently? And it turns out that the Netherlands is, together with Poland, the biggest mushroom producing country in Europe. And we have a lot of waste from the mushroom industry. Hundreds and thousands of tons. And that material is exactly, or almost exactly the same as the material you can grow in yourself. And in our opinion, that creates a much more, from a circular economy perspective, creates a much more interesting cycle in which you can grow a crop and sell the grain. You can grow mushrooms, sell the mushrooms, and then use the waste material, dry it and apply it and sell it as an insulation material. So you have a three-sided business model, and by doing that we can reduce the impact of our material, of insulation material, compared to styrofoam, with 77%. Sounds interesting, right? So, how do we do it? What is the product we make? Somebody approached me recently and had this Greek philosopher quote. I won't repeat it. I think the Nike version is much more interesting. So this is what I, during the last year, tried. Just do it. Show that it can be done. I mean, you will encounter endless amount of people that will say it's not possible, or you shouldn't do it, it's not right for your career, why don't you take a normal job? But just do it. So I'm going to share with you my story of the last year and how we try to show that this is possible. So approximately a year ago, I visited this mushroom farmer in the east of the Netherlands. And we collected some of his blocks and we made the first prototype. We went to some meetings and we were amazed that within a month we got an assignment for a circular pavilion at the Ministry of Economic Affairs in The Hague. And it was pure bluff, right? I mean, we had never built anything. So we needed to become a contractors company. And we collected some more blocks, we developed and prototyped a production method, how to quickly cut and shape these blocks. We borrowed a greenhouse here in the Westland. We dried the blocks. Then somebody asked about fire safety, and of course we didn't have any certification. So with the test on the parking spot outside our office, we went we asked for more money, more or less, to do the fire testing. So we actually have now a certified product, and all the people in the certification office, they were amazed by the performance of the material. And then we had to build it. This was on the last day of the build, and the next day it had to be shipped to the location, because we were building a prefab system, right? I mean, you can have good materials, but you need a flexible building system as well. So that's what we developed. We were happy, and then the sun went down, and we figured that one of the last panels was wet. In the greenhouse, it had been leaking, so a few of the panels were completely moist. So this is my father's kitchen, and we were drying the last blocks in the oven. So that night we can still put them back in, dried, and ship them. Because things will fail, right? And it's about how you deal with those problems, and how, I mean, I can tell here that I was devastated when we figured that out, but now I can laugh about it, and I mean, I know the end, so it was a success. We did a prefab system, so the build took us a week for the first time. I think that's extremely fast. 18 square meters, on location. Actually, sometimes the ministers were around in the building, and then we had to stop, because everything has to stop when the ministers are around. So it was a pretty difficult first location to build at. We needed to put a sprinkler in for 18 square meters, and nobody can explain, you will figure out that nobody can explain you the rules around sprinklers. I asked the fire department, I asked the architects, I asked the building technicians. Kind of the rule is, if there are sprinklers, you need more sprinklers. So sprinklers we installed, and well, we're very happy about that detail there. That's, if you put something together and it turns out as on the drawing, then that's an amazing feeling. And it turned out, we think, pretty okay. We don't like the green tower, but that somebody had really needed to put that in, so they were giving us money, so that's, I don't know, you deal with that. And the interior pictures are even nicer in my opinion. All the furniture is from Marktplaats, the tiles are reused, all natural materials are in there. Because it's really about how you put the materials together, right? It's not about one material. And one of the first, so we were really happy, we showed that you can make a nice building with a radically new material. And the first that people said that they were disappointed because you couldn't see the material. And we were really approaching contractors, building companies, and say, hey, we've developed this new material, and we want to put it in facades. Look, we can do it. And they were, yeah, nice building, but we're not that happy, or we're not that, what's the word? They were not really wanting to give us money and make a real prototype for outside, and the building companies were all holding back. But we were very amazed that a lot of furniture companies and a lot of interior architecture companies were approaching us. But they wanted to have the material on site, so we created a lab. This was my first lab in the basement. This was in an office building, and now we have an 80 square meter laboratory slash production facility in The Hague. And we were growing the material ourselves for, well, a year ago I wasn't expecting to be doing this, but so we're now making really big sheets. This was together with Gispe. This is the first panel we made for them. I don't really like it, but it was a we learned a lot during the process. We're in a project together now, which I unfortunately can't show any pictures of because of, well, Gispe is very secretive about their developments considering all the other companies that are also interested in this material. But well, this I can show. This is something we are currently doing, and we made much smaller tiles because we can prototype much faster, right? So it was really stupid to start with a very, very big panel. So the quality is really improving of the material, and yeah, so we're testing, we're improving the material. But what we also think is very interesting, and what we're currently really looking into, is the collaboration with other startups, new initiatives, because you can't make a building or an interior out of one material. You really need the collaboration between different materials, so paints, plate materials, etc. Because this was just a prototype. But in the essence, it's a completely, people say, vegan building. And I think that's the future. Maybe the term vegan is wrong, but a completely nature-based solution which we can just bring back to nature when we're done with it, discard, and we produce no waste. So completely impactless buildings. That's why, yeah, as I said, 100% natural building materials from local waste streams. And the last thing is very important. Currently we're working with the Dutch water boards to see if we can upcycle their waste streams into the insulation material. But there's basically, the opportunities are endless if you look from a global context, right? So these and these. And we really envision this for a solution all over the world, because nature and plants grow everywhere, are everywhere. And that's what we work on every day. This is our team, and we're always looking for new people that want to join us on our journey. We think that work should be fun, and that everybody needs their space to excel. I really had shitty internships when I was younger, and I try to have, we have one intern now, and we really try to give her the best experience we can. That was my story. Thank you very much.